The night before she left, I almost called her. My fingers hovered over her name on the phone screen, but I couldn't press the button. I told myself, tomorrow. I'll talk to her tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Her name was Clara, and for 3 years, she had been the closest thing I had to home. We weren't perfect, we fought, said things we didn't mean, and promised things we never kept. But there was love. The quiet kind that hides between small gestures. Like how she used to text me, "Did you eat?" Or how she'd wait outside my office with my favorite coffee when she knew I'd had a bad day. And I loved her too. But I loved my pride more. The last time we spoke, it wasn't even a real conversation. We argued over something small, something stupid, really. I don't even remember what started it. All I remember is her voice breaking when she said, "You never listen, Daniel. You only talk when it's about you." I laughed bitterly and said, "Then maybe you should find someone who listens better." There was silence on the line. A long one. Then she whispered, "Maybe I will." That was the last time I heard her voice. 2 weeks later, a friend told me Clara had moved to another city for a job offer. One she'd mentioned months before, but I'd never taken seriously. She didn't tell me she was leaving. No goodbye. Just gone. At first, I was angry. How could she leave without saying anything? But the truth was, I'd left her long before she left me. With my silence, my ego, my refusal to say I'm sorry. I thought she'd call. I thought she'd text. She didn't, and I didn't either. Days turned into months. Her number stayed in my phone, but it felt heavier every time I saw it. Every night, I'd scroll to her name, stare at it, then lock my screen. I told myself I didn't miss her. I told myself I was fine. But love doesn't disappear just because you pretend it's gone. It lingers in old photos, in the smell of her perfume on an old shirt, in songs you skip halfway through because they hurt too much. One night, after months of pretending, I finally broke. Called her. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. "Hey, this is Clara. Leave a message after the beep." Her voice sounded the same. Warm. Familiar. Felt like being punched in the chest. I didn't say anything. I just listened to her laugh at the end of the message, the soft sound of her breathing before the beep. Then I hung up. A week later, I found out she'd been in an accident. Her cousin called me, said it happened late one night while she was driving home from work. She didn't make it. I don't remember what I said after that. Maybe I didn't say anything at all. That night, I sat on the floor, holding my phone. Her number still on the screen. And for the first time in my life, I realized that the saddest words aren't, "I lost her." They're, "I never said what I needed to." Every day since, I've played that voicemail. Not because it makes me feel better, but because it's all I have left. Her voice, her laugh, her silence. And sometimes, I whisper back, "I'm sorry, Clara, for everything I never said." 3 weeks after the funeral, I still hadn't said her name out loud. It felt like saying it would make it real. Like the moment I did, the truth would finally crash down on me. That she was gone. That there would be no second chances. No more late-night calls. No more "Did you eat?" texts. The world felt quieter without her. Too quiet. Her family didn't call me after the funeral. They didn't need to. I wasn't the boyfriend anymore. Just someone from her past who showed up, placed a flower, and left before anyone noticed the guilt on his face. But one evening, when I came home from work, I found a small brown envelope in my mailbox. There was no return address, only my name written in her handwriting. For a moment, I couldn't move. I turned the envelope over in my hands again and again. The handwriting was definitely hers. The same soft curves, the same neat loops. I didn't understand how it was possible. When I finally opened it, a folded letter fell out, along with a small flash drive. The letter began simply, "Hi, Daniel. If you're reading this, I guess I didn't get the chance to call you back." My breath caught. I sat down immediately. My heart was racing so fast it hurt. I know we ended badly. I thought time apart would help us heal. But I couldn't leave without saying what I never said. There were tear marks on the page. They'd blurred the ink in some places. But I kept reading. "You were stubborn. I was too. We both said things that we can't take back. But no matter how angry I was, I never stopped caring about you. You were my home, Daniel, even when it didn't feel like it. My vision blurred. I could almost hear her voice as I read. It wasn't angry or sad, just tired. Honest. If life were fair, we'd have had another chance. But life doesn't always wait for us to grow up. I just hope, wherever I go, you learn how to love yourself the way I loved you. Patiently, and even when it was hard. The last line of the letter said, "Play the recording. It's the last thing I ever made." My hands trembled as I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. It took a few seconds to load. Those seconds felt like a lifetime. When the audio finally started, I heard a faint sound of rain in the background. Then her voice. "Hey, it's me. I don't know if I'll ever send this. Maybe you'll never hear it. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the things I said that night. And I forgive you for yours." There was a small pause. I could hear her take a shaky breath. "I'm leaving tomorrow. I thought about calling you, but I know how that would go. You'd say you're fine, and I'd pretend I believe you. So instead, I'm saying goodbye this way." She laughed softly. That same soft laugh that used to melt me every time. "You'll probably keep pretending you don't miss me. That's okay. You were always better at pretending. But I just hope that one day you'll answer the call. Not from me, but from yourself. The part of you that still wants to be happy." Her voice broke a little at the end. "Goodbye, Daniel. Thank you for loving me, even when you didn't know how." Then silence. Just the sound of rain and a small sigh before the recording ended. I sat there for hours. I didn't cry right away. I just stared at the screen, letting her voice echo in my head over and over. It wasn't until the rain started outside my own window that I realized I was shaking. I pressed my forehead against the desk and whispered, "I did love you, Clara. I still do." That night, for the first time since she left, I didn't listen to her voicemail. I listened to the recording instead, because somehow it felt like she was finally speaking to the part of me I had kept locked away. And maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to answer that call. The next morning, I woke up to the soft sound of rain. For a moment, I forgot everything, the letter, the recording, the emptiness. Then I saw the flash drive lying on my desk, and the ache returned like a shadow that never left. I made coffee, but it didn't taste like anything. Nothing did anymore. It's strange how life keeps going, even when you feel like it shouldn't. The world doesn't stop for heartbreak. I sat by the window, listening to the rain hit the glass. It sounded exactly like the background in her recording. For a second, I almost imagined she was sitting beside me again, her head resting on my shoulder, whispering something about how peaceful the rain sounded. I smiled without meaning to. Then I caught myself, and the smile faded. For days, I couldn't stop listening to her voice. Not because I wanted to torture myself, but because it felt like she was still here. Every time I played it, I noticed something new. A soft breath, a quiet laugh, a pause that made me think she was about to say my name. But something strange began happening. The more I listened, the more I started hearing things that weren't there before. Faint sounds like whispers. At first, I thought it was static. Then, one night, I was sure I heard her say, "Let go, Daniel." I froze. I replayed that part over and over, but I couldn't find it again. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe grief really does make you hear ghosts. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to tell me something. A few days later, I went back to the park where we used to walk. The sky was cloudy, the air cold, but I needed to go. I sat on the same bench we'd sat on countless times before. The city felt louder now. People walking, children laughing, car horns in the distance. Yet I'd never felt so alone. I took out my phone and played the recording again. Her voice filled my ears, soft and calm. "I just hope that one day you'll answer the call. Not from me, but from yourself." I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I swear I could feel her there. Not as a ghost, not as something haunting, but as warmth, like sunlight through clouds. "You need to move on, Daniel," I whispered to the empty air. But I don't know how. The wind picked up. It brushed against my cheek, gentle like a touch. Maybe it was just the breeze. Or maybe it was her. That night I dreamed of her. We were sitting on that same park bench. She was wearing the blue scarf I gave her years ago, her hair falling softly over her shoulders. She smiled at me. Not the sad, tired smile from the end, but the one I fell in love with. "You finally came," she said. "I've missed you," I told her. "I know," she whispered, "but you can't stay here forever." I reached for her hand, but before I could touch her, she stood up. "It's time, Daniel. You have to let go now." "Let go of what?" I asked, my voice shaking. She just smiled, her eyes shining in the soft light. "Of the pain. Of me. Of the call you never made." Then she turned and began to walk away, fading into the fog. I called out her name, but she didn't turn around. I woke up crying. That morning, I didn't listen to the recording. For the first time, I didn't need to, because somehow, I felt like she'd already said everything I needed to hear. I opened the window, letting the morning air fill the room. The rain had stopped, and for the first time in months, sunlight touched my face. And maybe, just maybe, that was her too, reminding me that even endings can be gentle. A week passed since the dream, but it didn't fade like most dreams do. It stayed with me. Her voice, her smile, the way she said, "You have to let go now." I woke up every morning hearing those words in my head. And maybe for the first time, I started to understand what she meant. Letting go didn't mean forgetting her. It meant learning to live in a world where she no longer was. It meant remembering her, but not letting the memory break me every time. Still, that was easier said than done. One evening, while cleaning the apartment, I came across a box I hadn't opened since before she left. It was full of small things, old letters, concert tickets, random notes she'd left around the house. Each one hit me like a soft punch to the chest. At the bottom of the box, I found a small notebook. On the first page, in her handwriting, it said, "Dreams will chase, together or apart." I smiled through the ache. Inside were small lists, places she wanted to visit, things she wanted to learn, people she wanted to help. And beside many of them, she'd written my name. "Daniel will love this. With Daniel someday." But someday never came. I sat there for hours flipping through the pages, reading about all the things she'd wanted to do. And somewhere between the tears and the silence, an idea began to form. The next morning, I made a promise to her and to myself. If she couldn't finish her list, then I would. One dream at a time. Started small. On her list, she'd written, "Volunteer at the animal shelter. Help the old dogs find homes." So that's what I did. The first time I walked into that shelter, it felt strange, like stepping into someone else's life. But then I saw this old brown dog sitting alone in a corner, his eyes dull and tired, and something inside me softened. The shelter worker said he'd been there for months. Too old, too quiet, nobody wanted him. I knelt beside him and whispered, "Hey, buddy, I know the feeling." That day, I took him home. I named him Sunny, because Clara always said even the saddest souls deserve a little sunshine. Days turned into weeks, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something close to peace. Sunny followed me everywhere, quiet, loyal, never asking for more than company. At night, I'd sit by the window with him beside me, watching the stars. Sometimes, I'd whisper to the sky, "I'm keeping my promise, Clara, one step at a time." And somehow, it felt like she was listening. Then one day, as I was going through more of her things, I found a photo. It was of us, taken on a mountain during a weekend trip 2 years ago. She was laughing, wind in her hair, her arms around me. On the back, she had written, "Keep climbing, no matter how high it gets." That line hit me harder than anything else she'd ever said. So I decided to climb again. Literally. The following weekend, I packed a small bag, took Sunny, and drove to that same mountain. The trail was harder than I remembered. Halfway up, my legs ached, and my chest burned. But I kept hearing her voice, "Keep climbing." When I finally reached the top, the sun was setting. The sky looked like fire and gold. I sat there, breathless, tears in my eyes, watching the horizon. "You see this, Clara?" I whispered. "I made it." The wind blew softly through the trees. And in that moment, I felt something. Not sadness, not loneliness, but warmth. Like she was proud of me. I took out my phone, opened the Notes app, and typed a few words. The promise I made: keep living, keep loving, keep climbing. It wasn't much, but it was a start. That night, I realized something important. Love doesn't end when a person is gone. It changes shape. It becomes a promise you carry in your heart forever. By the time 2 months had passed, my world had changed in small, quiet ways. The apartment didn't feel as heavy anymore. The silence wasn't as cruel. I had Sunny now, my loyal shadow, the one creature who never asked questions. I was still keeping my promise, one line at a time from Clara's list. But every night I came back to the same thought. She had left me a message, but why had it arrived so late? I never asked her cousin how they found that letter. Maybe I was scared of the answer. One Sunday afternoon, I finally sat down to write her a letter. Not to send, not to post, just to release. I found her old notebook, the one with the list, and flipped to the last blank page. I wrote, "Dear Clara, it's been 63 days since you left, and I'm still learning how to breathe without you. But I've been trying. I took in a dog. His name is Sunny, you'd love him. I climbed the mountain again. I kept climbing. I paused, staring at the words, then added, but something feels unfinished. Like there's something you wanted me to find, and I haven't yet." I didn't know why I wrote that, it just spilled out. But as soon as I did, Sunny lifted his head from the floor and started growling. Low, uneasy. I froze. It was almost midnight. The apartment was dark, except for the small lamp on my desk. "Hey, it's okay," I whispered, rubbing his head. But he didn't calm down. He kept staring toward the bookshelf, the one where I'd placed Clara's old things. Slowly, I stood and walked over. The air felt heavier, colder. I knelt down, brushing my fingers over the row of photo albums and letters. And then I saw it, something I'd never noticed before. A small envelope, wedged behind the frame of our favorite photo. It had my name on it. Same handwriting, same ink. My heartbeat quickened. I picked it up, sat back down at the desk, and carefully opened it. Inside was a single folded page. It read, "If you ever find this, it means I didn't have the courage to send it. I wasn't ready to let you go yet. But there's something you need to know." My hands shook as I kept reading. "The job offer I told you about. It wasn't just for me. I had plans for both of us. There was something I wanted to show you. A place I found. Somewhere quiet where the world finally makes sense. If you ever want to know what I meant, go back to the cabin. The one we visited last winter. You'll find it there." There was no signature. Just her name, written in faint pencil at the bottom. Clara. The cabin. I hadn't thought about that place in months. It was a small wooden cabin we'd rented last winter. Deep in the woods, near a frozen lake. She'd called it our hideaway. We'd promised to go back. We never did. But the letter, how did it get there? And what did she mean by, "You'll find it there"? I sat there for a long time, reading her words again and again. Sunny rested his head on my knee, eyes watching me quietly. Outside, thunder rumbled. Rain began to fall, the same sound that filled her recording. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice in my mind. "You'll answer the call, not from me, but from yourself." What if this was the call? What if she wanted me to go back? 3 a.m. I made a decision. I packed a small bag, grabbed my jacket, and slipped the letter into my pocket. Before leaving, I turned off all the lights except the one on my desk. The page I'd started writing her still lay there, unfinished. So I added one more line before I left. "I'm coming, Clara." One last time. Then I walked out into the rain. The drive took nearly 5 hours. By the time I reached the edge of the forest, the rain had already turned the road into a narrow river of mud. The headlights cut through the fog, but barely. Everything looked washed out, gray, and endless. Sunny sat in the passenger seat, quiet, his head resting on the window. Even he seemed to sense that this wasn't an ordinary trip. I wasn't sure what I was doing or what I expected to find. All I knew was that Clara's letter had said, "You'll find it there," and that was enough to pull me through the storm. When the cabin finally came into view, my breath caught. It looked exactly the same as it had a year ago. Small, wooden, tucked between trees like a secret. The porch light was still broken, the same way we'd left it. The air smelled of pine and rain, and the sound of water dripping from the roof echoed through the night. I parked the car, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped out. The forest felt alive, not peaceful but watchful. Every sound seemed louder. The rain, the creak of branches, my own footsteps sinking into the wet ground. I walked up to the door. It was locked, of course. But when I reached into my pocket, I found something strange. A small, rusted key. I froze. I didn't remember bringing it. But it was there, the same old cabin key Clara used to keep on her keychain. I didn't know whether to be comforted or terrified. I turned it slowly, and the lock clicked open. Inside, everything was almost exactly as we'd left it. The fireplace cold, the couch covered in dust, the faint smell of wood and thyme. But there was something else, too. A faint scent of her perfume, lavender. It shouldn't have been there. Sunny whimpered softly. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the room with my flashlight. Then I saw it. On the table, right in the center of the room, was a single envelope. It was perfectly clean, untouched by dust, and it had my name on it. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone I was coming here. No one knew about the letter she'd left me. I walked over, each step heavier than the last. The room was silent except for the sound of rain on the roof. I reached for the envelope. My hands were shaking. It was sealed with a small wax heart, the kind Clara used on her old letters. I took a deep breath, then opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper, written in her familiar, looping handwriting. "Daniel, if you're reading this, you came. I wasn't sure you would. You always waited too long to follow your heart." I felt my throat tighten. I came back here before I left for the city. I needed to remember what peace felt like. I left something here for you. Something that belongs to both of us. You'll find it where the light touches the lake. The lake. Our lake. I dropped the letter and grabbed my flashlight again. The rain outside had softened into a steady drizzle. The lake was only a few minutes' walk behind the cabin. Sunny followed me as I stepped outside, the wet grass cold beneath my boots. When I reached the edge of the lake, the fog had thickened. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the faint glow of the moon behind the clouds. And then I saw it. A small wooden box sitting near the rocks, half buried in mud. It looked like it had been there for months. I crouched down, brushed the dirt away, and lifted it gently. It was heavier than I expected. Old but not damaged. There was a faint engraving on the lid. 2 letters intertwined, D+C. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, wrapped in a piece of cloth, was a small black voice recorder. The kind she used to use when she wrote her poetry. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I pressed the play button. Static. Then a click. And then her voice. "If you're hearing this, Daniel, it means I didn't make it." I froze. "But I need to tell you something. Something I couldn't say before I left." Her voice cracked. "It wasn't an accident." Static. Then silence. The recorder clicked off. The lake went still. And for the first time in months, I felt truly afraid. I replayed the recording at least 10 times, but it always ended the same way. Her voice trembling, her final words swallowed by static. "It wasn't an accident." Then silence. Every time I heard it, my skin prickled. I could almost feel her fear hiding between those words. I wanted to believe it was a glitch, old tape, damaged by rain, maybe even my mind twisting what I heard. But deep down, I knew Clara's voice too well to mistake it. She'd meant every syllable. The storm outside grew heavier, lightning flashing across the sky. The lake rippled like it was shivering. Sunny whined softly beside me, uneasy. I turned off the recorder, slipped it into my pocket, and hurried back toward the cabin. The path was slippery, and every shadow between the trees looked like it was watching me. When I reached the door, I froze. It was open, just a few inches, enough for the wind to push it gently, creaking on its hinges. I was sure I'd closed it when I left. "Hello," I called out. No answer. The air inside the cabin felt colder now. I switched on my flashlight again and slowly swept it across the room. Nothing. Just empty furniture and the letter still lying on the table. Then I noticed something else. A wet footprint. Not mine. It led from the doorway straight to the table. And it stopped right where I'd left Clara's letter. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I stepped closer. The letter was gone. "Sonny," I whispered. He whimpered, tail low, staring toward the back of the cabin. I swallowed hard, reached for the old fire poker leaning near the fireplace, and took slow steps toward the back room. The door was slightly open. I pushed it gently. The old hinges groaned, and my flashlight flickered for a moment before steadying. The room was empty, or so I thought. Then I saw something carved into the wall beside the window. It looked fresh, as if scratched in recently with a knife or key. 3 words. He was there. I stumbled back. My pulse raced. He. Who was he? Lightning flashed again, lighting the whole cabin for half a second. And in that half second I saw something else. A shadow standing by the treeline outside the window. Still. Watching. I ran outside, the rain hitting my face hard. "Who's there?" I shouted. No answer. Just the storm. I pointed my flashlight toward the trees, but the beam only caught rain and darkness. No movement. No figure. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe the storm was playing tricks on me. But my instincts screamed otherwise. When I finally went back inside, the fire poker still in my hand, something on the table caught my eye. A folded piece of paper. One that hadn't been there before. I hesitated, then picked it up. It was damp, the ink slightly smeared. There were only 2 lines written on it. "Stop looking, Daniel. Some truths don't want to be found." No name. No handwriting I recognized. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound, every raindrop, every groan of wood made me flinch. Sonny stayed close, never leaving my side. By morning, the rain had stopped, but the fog hadn't lifted. I packed my things quickly, ready to leave. But before I could, I decided to check the back room one more time. The wall was clean. The words, "He was there," were gone. Not faded. Gone. Like they'd never been carved at all. I searched the floor, the window, even the old paint flakes. Nothing. That's when I noticed something else. A faint sound. A soft click, coming from beneath the floorboards. I crouched down. Sonny growled. There was a loose plank near the corner of the room. It moved slightly under my hand. I grabbed the edge and pried it up. Underneath was a small metal box. Dusty, locked, but real. For a moment, I just stared at it, unable to breathe. Whatever was inside, Clara must have hidden it herself. And maybe it was what she wanted me to find all along. I lifted it slowly, brushing the dust away. The lock was old but weak. With one twist of the poker, it snapped open. I opened the lid. Inside were photographs. Old ones, printed, faded at the edges. Clara, with a man I didn't recognize. Smiling, holding hands, standing by the same lake. And in the corner of one photo, I saw something written in her handwriting. "The one who knows." The same words were carved faintly on the back of the metal box. I looked out the window again. The fog still clung to the trees. And just beyond the lake, I thought I saw a figure. The same one from before. Standing perfectly still. Watching me. The photos lay spread across the table like pieces of a puzzle that didn't want to be solved. Rainwater dripped from my sleeves onto the paper, blurring the edges, but I couldn't look away. Clara, laughing, her head tilted back, sunlight on her face. Beside her, a man older, maybe mid-30s, tall, sharp jawline, dark eyes. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. In one photo, his arm was around her shoulders. In another, they were by a car, the same one I'd seen parked near her building once, months before she left. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. Now, I wasn't so sure. I turned the last photo over. On the back, written faintly in Clara's handwriting, were 2 words. He lied. My throat went dry. The letter, the recording, the carved message, he was there. Was this the same he? Sunny whined softly under the table, breaking the silence. I slipped the photos back into the box and stood up. Whoever this man was, Clara had known him well. Maybe too well. And if what she said in that recording was true, it wasn't an accident. Then this man wasn't just a part of her past. He might have been part of her death. I tried to steady my breathing and think. There had to be a clue somewhere. I took out my phone and snapped pictures of all the photos before carefully putting everything back in the box. That's when I noticed something else. Taped to the bottom of the lid. It was a small folded paper with a smudge of red ink. Inside, one line written in haste. Ask Harper. Trust no one else. Harper. My mind immediately went to Lena Harper, Clara's closest friend from college. She was at the funeral but left early, avoiding everyone. We hadn't spoken in years. I checked my phone. Her number was still saved, Lena H. For a minute, I just stared at it, my thumb hovering over the call button. Every part of me hesitated. But then I remembered the letter on the table, the one that had appeared out of nowhere. Stop looking, Daniel. If someone didn't want me to dig deeper, it meant I had to. The call rang twice before a voice answered. Hello, Lena. It's Daniel. There was a long pause. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight. Daniel? Why are you calling me? I found something, I said quietly. Something from Clara. She mentioned your name. Silence. Then a sharp breath. Where are you? At the cabin. She whispered something I couldn't catch. Then, Daniel, listen to me. You need to leave that place. Right now. Why? What's going on? Just go. Don't stay there after dark. Please. Her voice broke. I could hear real fear in it. Lena, what are you not telling me? But before she could answer, the line went dead. I tried calling her back. No signal. Nothing but static. I checked my phone again. The battery icon was flickering even though I charged it fully that morning. The screen glitched for a moment, then went black. The cabin was suddenly too quiet. Even the rain had stopped. That silence, heavy, unnatural, made the air feel colder. I turned toward the window. The fog outside was thick, rolling over the trees like smoke. That's when I saw it. A single set of footprints. Fresh, wet, leading from the treeline, straight toward the door. My chest tightened. I grabbed the poker again and moved slowly toward the entrance. Sunny growled low, ears flat. I yanked the door open. Nothing. Just fog. No one there. I stepped out cautiously, scanning the ground. The prints were deep, real, stopping right at the porch. But they didn't lead away. Whoever made them never turned back. My heart pounded. I turned, ready to go inside, and froze. The door was closing. Slowly. I hadn't touched it. Sunny barked, backing away. I rushed forward and caught it before it shut completely. The moment I pushed it open, something fell from the ceiling. A small envelope tied with twine. It landed at my feet. The handwriting was unmistakable. Clara's. But the ink was still wet. I bent down slowly, afraid to breathe. The envelope wasn't dusty or old. It was new, warm even, like it had just been written. My hands trembled as I untied the string and unfolded the paper inside. It said only 3 words. He's behind you. For a second after reading those 3 words, he's behind you, I couldn't move. My body forgot how to breathe. The paper slipped from my fingers and landed soundlessly on the floorboards. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but I couldn't. The air behind me felt heavier, colder, as if someone were standing close enough for me to feel their breath. Sunny barked once, sharp and scared. That broke the spell. I spun around, the poker raised. Nothing. Just the open doorway and the white curtain of fog outside. I stepped to the threshold and stared into it until my eyes burned. No shadow. No movement. Only rain beginning again, soft as whispers. But when I turned back into the cabin, something had changed. The metal box was gone. I dropped to my knees, searching under the table, behind the chair, beneath the rug. Nothing. It had vanished, along with the photographs inside it. "Sonny?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He whined, tail tucked, staring toward the window as if he could see what I couldn't. Then a light, faint, orange, moving through the trees. A lantern. Someone was out there. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped onto the porch. "Who's there?" I shouted. The light stopped. For a heartbeat, I saw a silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, and then it turned and disappeared into the woods. I ran after it. Branches whipped at my face. Mud splashed up my legs. The lantern bobbed ahead of me like a will-o'-the-wisp. Every few seconds it vanished behind the trees, then flickered again farther ahead. Whoever it was, they knew the forest. "Stop!" I yelled. "Who are you?" No answer. Only the sound of boots striking wet earth. Then the light blinked out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. I stopped, breathing hard, the flashlight shaking in my hand. Rain hissed through the leaves. My pulse was so loud I almost didn't hear it. A single footstep, behind me this time. I turned the beam toward the sound. For a second, it caught on a face. The same man from the photograph. Dark coat, rain dripping from his hair. Expression unreadable. "Daniel," he said quietly, like he'd been waiting for me. I froze. "Who are you?" He didn't answer right away. Then, calmly, "You shouldn't have come back." Before I could speak, thunder cracked overhead. When the flash lit the forest, he was already gone. No footsteps, no sound, just the rain. I stumbled back toward the cabin, heart pounding. Sonny was barking inside, frantic. When I reached the porch, I saw why. The photographs were spread across the floor again, every single one. But now they were different. The man's face had been scratched out of each picture with something sharp. And on the table, drawn in wet mud, were 3 words. He was there. The same message I'd seen carved into the wall before it vanished. I backed away slowly, gripping the poker until my knuckles turned white. Something was wrong with this place. Something beyond grief, beyond memory. Sonny growled low, staring at the door. A single knock echoed through the cabin. Once, twice, then silence. I didn't move. Neither did he. The third knock was softer, almost gentle, followed by a voice that sent ice down my spine. "Daniel, open the door." It was Clara's voice. I dropped the poker. The room spun. Every part of me wanted to run, but I couldn't. I took one slow step forward. "Clara?" I whispered. No answer. Just the wind pushing against the door, making it rattle softly in its frame. "Clara, if it's you, say something." Nothing. I reached for the handle, hand shaking. Sonny barked once, a warning that made me stop. Then I heard it. From the other side of the door, a quiet laugh. Her laugh, exactly as it had sounded in her recordings. And then a whisper right next to the wood. "You found him, didn't you?" The lantern light flared again outside, spilling through the cracks. A shadow moved past the window. I yanked the door open. No one there. Only the lantern, hanging from the porch beam, still burning. Beneath it, something small glimmered on the step. The missing metal box. I bent to pick it up, and my stomach turned cold. It wasn't empty this time. Inside was a single photograph of me, standing in the doorway, taken from the woods, taken tonight. The photo trembled between my fingers. Rain misted over the porch, blurring the edges, but I could still see it clearly. Me standing in the doorway, taken from somewhere in the trees. Someone had been here, watching, close enough to see the fear on my face. I went inside, bolted the door, and set the metal box on the table. Sonny paced in circles, whining softly. Every creak of the old cabin sounded louder now, like a whisper I couldn't understand. I forced myself to breathe, think, who could have taken that picture? The man in the photograph. Lena's voice on the phone. Don't stay there after dark. Maybe she'd known this would happen. I sat down, the box still open before me. Beneath the new photo was something else. A small memory card wrapped in tissue. I hadn't noticed it at first. It looked old, the kind Clara used in her camera when we traveled together. Hands shaking, I slid it into my laptop. The screen flickered, then opened a single audio file. No title, no date, just a timestamp from nearly a year ago, the night she left the city. I pressed play. First, only static. Then Clara's voice, tired but clear. If you ever find this, Daniel, it means I didn't get to tell you the truth face to face. My chest tightened. The man you saw once, the one who drove me home from work, that's Evan. I told you he was just my manager, but it wasn't that simple. He knew too much about me, about us. He wanted to invest in my projects, said he could make my writing bigger, public. But when I tried to end it, he wouldn't let go. Her voice faltered. The next part came in a whisper. I thought I was overreacting. Then he started following me. To the bookstore. To the park. Even here, to the cabin. I told Lena everything. She said she'd handle it if anything happened. Pause, rain in the background, just like now. If you ever come back here, don't come alone. The file ended with a sharp click. I sat frozen, staring at the laptop screen. Evan. I remembered the name now. He'd been mentioned once or twice when Clara talked about work. Polite, quiet, always in the background. Nothing unusual. Except now his shadow was everywhere. In the photos, in her voice, in the dark outside. I pulled out my phone to call Lena again, but the signal was still dead. Only a blinking message at the top of the screen. No service. A noise came from outside. Soft, deliberate. I turned off the lamp. Moonlight spilled through the window, silvering the room. Something moved just beyond the glass, a faint outline. I crouched by the floor, watching. A shape crossed the porch and paused by the lantern. The flame inside flared brighter, then dimmed. Whoever it was, they were listening. Sonny growled low. The boards under the window creaked as if a hand had pressed against them. Then a knock. Just once. I didn't answer. Another knock, slower this time. Daniel. The voice was male, calm. Familiar. Not Clara. It's Evan. The name chilled me. He spoke again, still quiet. You found the box. That means you know she lied to you. My pulse hammered in my throat. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but fear pinned me still. He continued, voice closer now, right beside the window. She wasn't the person you think she was. She used us both. I swallowed hard. You're lying. A pause. Then a soft laugh. Maybe, maybe not. But if you want the truth, Daniel, you'll have to come and see where she really died. Before I could move, the lantern outside flared again, blinding white, and went out. When my eyes adjusted, the porch was empty. I ran to the window. Nothing but fog. Evan was gone. But on the glass, traced in the condensation by a fingertip, were 4 words. You can't save her. The rain began again, harder this time. The wind pushed at the walls, as if the whole forest were breathing around me. Sonny barked once, then sat, staring toward the door. Somewhere out in the dark, a phone began to ring. My phone. The screen lit up with a single name I hadn't seen in months. Clara. The sound of my phone ringing cut through the storm like a knife. It wasn't loud, but it felt like it filled the cabin, echoing off every wall, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. Clara. Her name glowed on the screen, bright against the darkness. Couldn't breathe. For a second, I thought it had to be a mistake, some old glitch, a forgotten backup. But the phone was ringing. Now, here, after everything. Sonny whimpered and backed away. The sound kept going, steady, unbroken, like whoever was calling wasn't going to stop until I answered. My hand trembled as I picked it up. I didn't say anything, just pressed accept. At first, there was only static, soft, uneven, like waves breaking far away. Then a breath. A woman's breath. Daniel. I froze. The voice was faint, but I'd know it anywhere. Clara. You're still there, she whispered. I didn't think you'd come back. I felt the world tilt beneath me. Clara? Is this a recording? A pause. Then softly, "No, Daniel. Not this time." The words sent a shiver through me. Her tone wasn't the calm, careful one I remembered. It was tired, worn down, like she'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. "You shouldn't have opened the box," she said. "He knows now." "Evan," I whispered. "Yes. He always knows." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the wet glass of the windows. For a second, I thought I saw her reflection. Standing behind me, just the outline of her face. When the light faded, she was gone. I swallowed hard. "Clara, where are you?" "Not far. You're close. But if you keep looking, he'll find you first." My throat tightened. "Then tell me what happened. Please. I need to know the truth." Another pause. I heard her breathing shaky, uneven. "It wasn't supposed to go that way. I was going to leave. But he said if he couldn't have me, no one could." Her voice cracked on the last word. "Lena tried to help me. She told me to hide the recordings, the letters, everything. I left the last one for you." "Where?" I demanded. "You'll know. Follow the sound." The line went silent. I waited, but there was no click, no disconnection. Just a faint noise behind the static. Something rhythmic. A soft ticking sound. I turned, scanning the room. The sound wasn't coming from the phone anymore. It was inside the cabin. Tick, tick, tick. I followed it slowly, the flashlight beam trembling across the walls. It grew louder as I approached the old grandfather clock in the corner. The one that hadn't worked since before Clara and I bought this place. The clock's hands were moving now, the pendulum swinging. And behind the glass, taped to the wooden face, was another note. I opened the panel, heart pounding, and unfolded it. Only one line written in Clara's handwriting. "He's still in the house." I froze. The ticking stopped. Every light in the cabin flickered once, then went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Sunny barked, running toward the hallway. Then, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, flashlight in hand. A man stood in the doorway to the kitchen. Rain dripped from his coat, pooling on the floor. "Evan," I said, voice shaking. He stepped forward slowly, almost calm. "You shouldn't have answered that call," he said. "She doesn't belong here anymore." I tightened my grip on the flashlight. "What did you do to her?" He smiled faintly, tilting his head. "I tried to save her. But she couldn't let go of you." The words made my skin crawl. "You killed her." His smile faded. "I freed her," he whispered. "And she forgave me." I backed away toward the door, but he didn't follow. He just looked at me, those same dark eyes from the photograph, colder now. Then the phone rang again. Clara's name. Evan's gaze flicked to it, and something in his face shifted, fear. "Don't answer," he hissed. I hesitated. The ringing continued. "Daniel?" Clara's voice came through the speaker, clearer than before. "It's not over. You have to listen to me." Evan lunged. The flashlight slipped from my hand and hit the floor. The light swung wildly, once across his face, once across the wall, and then everything went black. When I woke, the cabin was quiet. The storm had passed. Evan was gone. The phone lay on the table, screen cracked, still glowing faintly. One new voicemail, from Clara. The morning light crept slowly through the window, soft and gray. The storm was gone, but the air inside the cabin still felt heavy, like the rain had soaked into the walls, into me. The phone sat on the table, cracked screen faintly glowing. One new voicemail. My hands shook as I picked it up. I didn't know what I'd hear. Clara's voice? Another trick? Or something worse? But I couldn't walk away now. Not after everything. I pressed play. First silence. Then the faint sound of breathing. And a voice, her voice, calm, but weighted with sadness. "Daniel, if you're hearing this, it means he finally told you something. Maybe not the truth. Maybe only what he wanted you to believe. But you deserve the whole story." My throat tightened. Outside, the forest was waking. A crow calling somewhere far away, leaves dripping quietly from the night storm. But I barely heard any of it. I met Evan before you and I ever moved here, she continued. He was charming at first, kind even. He helped me get the publishing deal, pushed me to write more. But the more I succeeded, the more control he wanted. When I told him I was engaged, he changed. Her voice faltered. He said I belonged to him, that I'd regret leaving. He followed me, to readings, to cafes, even here to the cabin. I didn't tell you because I thought he'd stop. I thought if I stayed quiet, he'd lose interest. But I was wrong. A deep breath, a faint sound of crying that she tried to hide. The last night, I called Lena. She told me to leave everything behind, the notes, the letters, the box, in case something happened. She promised she'd send you here only when it was safe. I guess it never was. Her tone softened. Daniel, if you ever come back here, don't try to find him. He'll twist everything. He'll tell you lies to make you doubt me. But whatever you hear, please believe I loved you. I always did. I felt my chest tighten until I could barely breathe. She paused again, and when she spoke next, her voice was barely above a whisper. He's close, Daniel. Don't let him take what's left. The voicemail ended. A beep, then silence. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone. My reflection in the cracked screen looked like a stranger, hollow-eyed, exhausted, lost between love and anger. If what she said was true, Evan hadn't just hurt her. He'd killed her. And now he was still here, somewhere. Sonny barked suddenly, snapping me out of my trance. He was facing the window again, ears up, tail rigid. Outside, the fog was creeping back through the trees. Then the faintest sound, a door creaking open, but not mine, the one behind the cabin, the one that led to the basement. I grabbed the flashlight and moved slowly toward it. The handle was cold beneath my fingers. It shouldn't have been open. I'd locked it when I arrived. The hinges groaned as I pulled it wider. A gust of damp, cold air brushed past me. Stairs descended into darkness. Sonny whined behind me, refusing to come closer. I knelt and patted his head. Stay, I whispered. Then I started down. The smell hit first, damp earth and old wood. Then something metallic, something sharp. Halfway down, my foot brushed against something on the step. A flashlight, not mine. The same kind Clara used to keep by her bedside. I switched it on. The beam cut through the dark, revealing walls lined with boxes and old furniture covered in sheets. Dust swirled through the air like mist. At the far end of the basement, something gleamed. A small metal lockbox, half buried under a torn tarp. I crossed the room slowly. The closer I got, the clearer the scratching on the wall became. At first, I thought it was just marks from the furniture. Then I saw the words carved into the wood, one letter at a time. He's not dead. My heart stopped. I turned around. The basement light flickered on, even though I hadn't touched the switch. And standing at the top of the stairs was Evan. He smiled faintly. You shouldn't have listened to her, Daniel, he said quietly. She never told you the truth. I took a step back, gripping the flashlight. What truth? He tilted his head. The one she couldn't admit. He paused. Then softly, she didn't die in the storm. She called me that night. Not you. The light above us flickered again and went out. I heard the sound of footsteps descending the stairs, slow, measured, echoing in the dark. Sonny barked from upstairs, desperate and terrified. The sound made my chest ache. Then, Clara's voice, faint, echoing from the shadows. Daniel, don't trust him. The air in the basement felt thicker than air should ever feel, like breathing through water. My flashlight flickered again, catching dust swirling in the dark. Evan stood on the steps, one hand resting on the wall, the other holding something small, Clara's old locket. You said she called you, I said quietly. What did you do to her? He smiled. It wasn't cruel. It was worse than that, calm, almost sad. She wanted to meet. She said she was afraid of you. My chest tightened. You're lying. Am I? He said. You don't remember that night, do you? Rain pounded harder against the cabin roof above us. The sound filled the silence between us. I remember she left, I said. She didn't say goodbye. Evan nodded slowly. She left because she was scared. Not of me. Of what you'd do when you found out. Found out what? I shouted. He took one more step down. The old stairs groaned beneath his weight. That she was going to leave you, he said softly. For me. I shook my head. No. She told me she loved me. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes that wasn't malice. It was pity. She did love you, he said. But she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I stared at him, my heart racing. Guilt for what? He didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the far wall, the one with the words carved into it. He pointed. You want the truth? It's behind there. I hesitated, then crossed the room. The beam of my flashlight landed on the boards where the letters were carved. Up close, the wood looked wrong, newer in some places, darker in others, like someone had sealed it up recently. My fingers found a gap between the planks. They shifted under pressure. One by one, I pulled them loose. The smell hit first, damp earth, mold, and something faintly metallic. Behind the boards was a hollow space, and inside it, a small bundle wrapped in an old blanket. I froze. Evan stayed where he was, silent. My pulse thundered in my ears. I reached in and pulled the bundle out. The blanket fell open in my hands, revealing a stack of letters tied together with a ribbon and a single photograph. It was of me and Clara, smiling, but someone had drawn a line of red ink across my throat. My knees went weak. What is this? I whispered. Evan stepped closer. She left those for you, he said quietly. She wanted you to know what really happened. I untied the ribbon. The top letter was addressed in Clara's handwriting, trembling, uneven. Daniel, if you ever find this, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You didn't kill me, but you did push me away. You stopped listening. You stopped seeing me. I swallowed hard. The next lines blurred through my tears. Evan wasn't who he said he was. I thought he'd protect me from you, but he wanted something else. He told me you'd hurt me, that you'd never let me go. I believed him, and when I tried to leave, he wouldn't let me. A drop of water fell from the ceiling onto the page. The ink smeared like blood. If you're reading this, it means he's still there. Please, Daniel, don't let him find me again. The letter ended there. I looked up at Evan. You said she called you. Why? What did you do to her? His smile disappeared. She ran, he said simply. But the storm was worse than she thought. I tried to stop her from leaving the cabin. He stepped closer. She slipped, hit her head on the steps outside. It was an accident. I stared at him, the truth sinking in like a stone in water. You buried her, I said. He didn't deny it. She didn't deserve to be alone, he whispered. I buried her here, beneath the floor. The world tilted. I stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp. It shattered, and for a moment, light flared, revealing a patch of uneven dirt in the corner of the room. Evan's voice was almost gentle. She's still here, Daniel. She never left. Rage and horror clashed inside me. I grabbed the shovel leaning against the wall and swung it toward him. He ducked easily, the blow glancing off the post. He didn't move toward me. He just smiled, that same calm, hollow smile. You can't bury the past, he said softly. Not twice. Then he turned and walked up the stairs. By the time I reached the top, the door was wide open. Rain poured in, soaking the floorboards. Evan was gone. I looked back down at the basement one last time. The flashlight beam trembled across the uneven patch of dirt. Something silver glinted just beneath the surface. Clara's locket, half buried, catching the light. I spent the rest of the morning digging. By the time the sun rose, my hands were raw and the earth around me looked like a wound. When I finally stopped, I found what I was looking for. The locket, and beneath it a single small box sealed shut. Inside was Clara's old phone. The screen flickered once and came to life. There was one saved voicemail, time-stamped the night she died. I pressed play. Her voice filled the silence. Daniel, please. He's here. He said he's going to. The message ended mid-sentence. Then a click. And another sound, a second voice, low and close to the microphone. You should have answered the first time. The screen went black. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. The cabin creaked. I sat there for a long time, holding the phone, listening to the rain. Somewhere in the distance, a single bell rang, slow, echoing, fading into silence. Then the phone lit up again. A new message. Unknown caller. The ringtone played softly, the same one Clara used to have.